Good evening, Chair. Calls to order Legislative Session Day 23-032. I would ask you to please stand for the pledge, followed by the opening prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to gather in these chambers this evening. We ask for your wisdom and guidance as we move through tonight's agenda and the people's business. May the truth in your words guide us. Father, watch over all our first responders, fire and EMS personnel, and law enforcement. Keep our men and women in uniform safe and out of harm's way. May we never forget to praise you for the sacrifices you've made. We pray in your most holy name, Lord. Amen. Amen. Council, before we move on, I want to recognize Commissioner Taylor in the audience with us this evening. And I don't think I miss anyone else. Good to see you, sir. Presentation of proclamations. Hop and Hawks jump rope competition team. Ms. Sottles, would you like to go down? At this time, we'd like to recognize and welcome Megan Reith, I believe the last name is. And anyone else that you'd like to have come forward with you? Gentlemen. Here we go.
Pop them up here.
Dion.
Keep them popping.
Jim's whenever you're ready, Councilman.
Whereas Hop and Hawks was founded in 1992 and has enjoyed performing and competing, last year was a successful competition season for their jumpers, and whereas this past summer, 4 jumpers advanced to the AAU Junior Olympic Games in Des Moines, Iowa. All regional jumpers earned many top 10 ribbons as well as medals for placing in the top 3. The Junior Olympic team earned 60 medals during the 2 tournament days. Additionally, they were invited to perform at the Celebration of Athletes, and whereas upon returning to Maryland, all 4 jumpers were selected as Maryland AAU Athletes of the Year. 2 jumpers were also awarded the Mel Parker Award for Outstanding Athletes at the 2023 Maryland AAU Banquet. Now, therefore, we, the County Council of Harford County, Maryland, on this 12th day of December 2023, do hereby salute Hop and Hawks jump rope team and wish to show our appreciation for their continued dedication to demonstrate their ability to work together and continually support one another to achieve their goals.
Hey, hey.
On behalf of the County Council and District E, we would like to present you with this proclamation. Congratulations for your hard work and your perseverance and bringing home all those medals. You guys have so much to be proud of, as do your coach and your parents and your family members. So congratulations. Coach Megan?
Okay, sure. All right, so just a couple of things if you're not familiar with Hop and Hawks Jump Rope Team. We love to have new people join us. We're at a Churchill Rec Center, and we've been in existence for a really long time, and they learn a lot of skills and had fun. We're hosting another tournament this April, so if anyone wants to see what jump rope is, come watch us.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I think that's it. Heather?
Oh, yes, if I had to speak, she has to speak.
I think so. I think so.
Come on, Mom.
Congratulations.
Do it. You're pressure. Such pressure.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we're good.
You holding the award, can you step this way just a little bit more. Perfect. All right. Okay.
All right. And if I may, before we go any further, Councilman Riley is not with us this evening. He'll be here next week. Agenda item number 5, consideration petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations. Executive appointments, Commission for Women. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve the appointments of Crystal Clark, Lillian Norkitis, Angela Rose, and Robin Termarchio.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. We have, it's been moved and seconded to approve the nominations, appointments rather. Is there any comments? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President,
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie,
Aye.
Mr. Penman,
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano,
Aye.
Mrs. Bolsados,
Aye.
Mr. Bennett,
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, the appointments are hereby approved. And if I may, I'd like to have Liliana, I don't see Robin here. Angela, please stand and be recognized. Crystal, hey, thank you for your service.
Spread out.
Yeah. Agenda number 6, special presentations, we have none. 7, approval of minutes, public hearing December 5th, 2023, legislative day 23-031, December 5, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There being no corrections, the minutes stand approved. Mr. Giangiordano, please read Resolution 04223 and 04323 into the record.
Resolution 042-23, notice of sale, refunding bonds, Series A, introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive. A resolution to authorize the issuance, sale, and delivery by Harford County, Maryland, the county, of its bonds designated Harford County, Maryland Consolidated Public Improvement Bonds, Series 2024A, the CPI bonds, in the original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $40 million pursuant to the provisions of Section 19-101 of the Local Government Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, 2013 Replacement Volume and 2022 Supplement, the Consolidated Bonds Act, Section 524 of the Charter of Harford County, the Charter, and Sections 123-40 and 256-26 of the Code of Harford County, the County Code, confirming that the principal, premium, if any, and interest therein shall be general obligations of the county, secured by its full faith and credit and unlimited taxing power, determining that the CPI bond shall be sold by competitive bid, appointing a bond registrar and paying agent for the CPI bonds, approving the substantially final forms of various documents to be executed on behalf of the county in connection with the issuance, sale, and delivery of the CPI bonds, determining the date of the sale, determining the average probable useful life of the improvements or undertaking with respect to which indebtedness evidenced by the CPI bonds is to be incurred, determining various other matters in connection with the issuance, sale, and delivery of the CPI bonds, including but not limited to provisions in the notice of sale for changes in the aggregate principal amount of the CPI bonds to be sold and changes in the principal amount to mature in certain years, and determining that the CPI bonds shall be consolidated for the purpose of sale. Resolution 43-23, notice of sale, refunding bonds, Series B, introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the County Executive. A resolution to authorize the issuance, sale, and delivery by Harford County, Maryland, the county, of its bonds designated Harford County, Maryland refunding bonds, Series 2024B, the refunding bonds in the original aggregate principal amount not to exceed $60 million pursuant to the provisions of Section 19-207 of the Local Government Articles of the Annotated Code of Maryland, 2013 Replacement Volume and 2022 Supplement, the Refunding Bonds Act, Section 524 of the Charter of Harford County, the Charter, Sections 123-40 and 256-26 of the Code of Harford County, the County Code, and Bill Number 23-033, enacted on November 21st, 2023, effective January 20th, 2024, the refunding bill for the purpose of financing the refunding of certain maturities of the county's outstanding Harford County, Maryland Consolidated Public Improvement Bonds 2013A issued by the county pursuant bills number 0716, 0717, 0718, 0835, 0836, 0926, 0927, 1018, 11-25, 11-27, 21, 11-28, 12-36, and 12-39, the outstanding 2013 A bonds, and the refunding of certain maturities of the county's outstanding Harford County, Maryland refunding series bonds 2023 issued by the county pursuant to bills number 0716, 0717, 07-18, 08-35, 08-36, 09-26, 09-27, 10-18, 11-25, 11-27, 24, 11-28, 12-36, 12-37, and 12-39, the outstanding 2013 B bonds, the refunding of certain maturities of the county outstanding Harford County, Maryland, Consolidated Public Improvement Bond Series 2014, issued by the county pursuant to bills number 07-16, 07-17, 08-35, 08-3, okay, here it says 08-36, 09-26, 10-18, 11-25, 11-27, 11-28, 12-36, 12-37, 12-39, and 13-20, the outstanding 2014 bonds, and together with outstanding 2013 A bonds and the outstanding 2013 B bonds, the outstanding bonds are, and including accrued interest and cost of issuance, providing for the increase or decrease in the aggregate principal amount of the refunding bonds not to exceed $60 million, confirming that the principal, premium, if any, and interest thereon shall be general obligations of the county, secured by its full faith and credit and unlimited taxing power, determining that the refunding bonds shall be sold by competitive bid, appointing a bond register and paying agent for the refunding bonds, approving the substantially final forms of various documents to be executed on behalf of the county in connection with the issuance, sale, and delivery of the refunding bonds, including an escrow deposit agreement, if necessary, determining the date of sale, determining various other matters in connection with the issuance, sale, and delivery of the refunding bonds, including but not limited to provisions in the notice of sale for changes in the aggregate principal amount of refunding bonds to be sold and changes in the principal amount to mature in certain years, and that's it. Okay. These resolutions,
Go ahead.
these resolutions will be considered at a future meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Sandless, at this time, Mr. Senate from Miles Stockbridge. And Mr. Richardson looks like. Good evening, gentlemen.
Okay, Mr. President, members of the council, thank you very much. Lawrence A. Richardson Jr. on behalf of Harford County. As noted, as the President noted, with us is Mr. Christopher Sennett from Miles and Stockbridge Council on our issue, and Treasurer Robbie Sandlin. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to these gentlemen that can offer any additional explanation you may need and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the County Council. I'm glad to be here again on behalf of Miles and Stockbridge, the county's bond council, to discuss two resolutions this evening, Resolution number 42-23 and Resolution 43-23, authorizing the sale of Harford County's 2024 CPI and refunding bonds, as the council just outlined. I will begin my discussion with Resolution 42-23, which is the CPI bonds. On June 27, 2023, the council approved Bill number 23-21 and Bill 23-22, authorizing and empowering the county to issue its 2024 bonds for county projects, including projects related to water and sewer infrastructure. The bill authorized the council to adopt one or more resolutions to sell its 2024 consolidated public improvement bonds upon public sale at a later date. This resolution provides notice that the public sale will occur on January 23rd, 2024, and all bids will be received by the county treasurer in coordination with Davenport and Company on this date. The notice of sale in substantially final form is attached to the resolution at Exhibit B. The resolution also authorizes this notice of sale be published in the Harford County Aegis, provides the flexibility to the county to sell fewer than $40 million in bonds on advice of Davenport as the county's financial advisor. The resolution also outlines the installments and maturities expected to be sold on January 23, 2024. In addition, it sets forth the terms for redemption of the bonds, provides at Exhibit C the form of the bonds that are to be sold on January 23rd, the repayment sources of the bonds, and the Internal Revenue Code provisions applicable to the bonds that they must maintain in order to maintain their tax-exempt interest status. Once the bonds are sold, the resolution authorizes the county to apply the funds of the bonds to the specific projects listed on Exhibit D, which Mr. Sandless will discuss. It also provides that the county shall use the Depository Trust Company as the clearinghouse for the bonds, and Manufacturers and Traders Trust Company as the paying agent for the bonds. Finally, the county council authorizes the county executive through this resolution and other officials of the county to sign the appropriate bond documents in order to effectuate the bond sale. Take any questions on the CPI bond resolution at this time before moving on to the refunding bond resolution.
Council, any questions for Mr. Sennett?
Thank you very much. Moving on to resolution number 43-23 regarding the 2024 refunding bonds of the county. On November 21st, 2023, County Council adopted Bill number 23-33, authorizing the county to issue up to $60 million in refunding bonds. The bill authorized the County Council to adopt a resolution giving the county the authority to refund its outstanding 2013A, 2013B, and 2014 bonds. As with the prior resolution, it also sets forth the terms of the bonds, including the notice of sale, the forms of the bonds, and other Internal Revenue Code provisions, ensuring that the interest on the bonds will always remain exempt from federal income taxation. Given that these are refunding bonds, the resolution again gives the county the flexibility to issue less than $60 million of the bonds if the county treasurer is advised by Davenport and Company that savings will only be achieved by refunding certain series. In addition, the resolution authorizes an escrow deposit agreement and a forward purchase agreement to facilitate the maximum savings for the county on the refunding. As with the prior resolution as well, the county council grants the county executive, the county treasurer, and other county officials the authority to execute documentation related to the refunding bonds to effectuate the sale. Finally, after the January 23rd sale, we will again approach the council with additional resolutions setting forth the exact terms of the bonds, including appropriate denominations, interest rates, and maturity years for both series. I'm now happy to discuss any further questions from the council on the refunding bonds, and if none, I will turn it over to Mr. Sandless for further discussion.
Mr. Sandless, if you're ready.
Yes.
So this is resolutions that come forth every year as part of the county's annual bond process. And I'll just kind of walk through how bonds more or less begin in the budget process, where they are in the capital in our capital budget, which is then approved by the county council. So any project that has bonds on it is stated so within that budget process. And then a lot of times there's a bit of a lag between when we budget for the project and when we actually start work on the project and have funds that we need to reimburse ourselves for. And that's kind of now the point at which we are now asking for this resolution for the terms of sale because we are about to go out for $40 million of new money, if you will, new debt, related to projects that have been through the budgeting process, and most of those are from the past several years. And of that amount, of that $40 million of new money, it's about half of it is for school projects. Most notably, the biggest one is the Homestead Wakefield elementary school project, but then the second largest one is the Harford Technical High School limited renovation. But there's a kind of a wide range of other projects as well. 38 million of that 40 million is taxpayer-supported debt, and then the other 2 million is for water and sewer debt, which is paid for by the users of the water and sewer system. The refunding possibilities, and at this point, we're still not exactly sure if we're going to be able to do a refunding or not, but we're going forward so that we're prepared if the market conditions exist. This is for older debt. This is for debt that we issued back in 2013 and in 2014, and that we think we might be able to get some possibly better rates. That was, of course, that was before you saw a lot of the big drops down in interest rates that we saw over the past several years. So we think there might be some potential for savings there. So we'll be looking for that, and we combine all of this into one joint bond sale, which will be on January 23rd. The next couple of weeks before that, the county will receive its credit rating from the 3 credit rating agencies, which will then enable us to go out to the investment community and collect bids for both the new money and the refunding. Once we have those bids in hands and the winning bids in hands, we'll come back in front of the county council for a special session on that January 23rd at 2 p.m. For you all to approve those bond sales.
Thank you, Mr. Sandless. Mr. Giangiordano?
Good evening, Mr. Sandless. So understand the refunding of the bonds from 13-14, but why is it that all these refundings weren't done a couple years ago when the interest rates were really low instead of waiting now? The interest rates have ticked up in the last couple years.
So they used to allow you to do advanced refunding. So normally the refundings have a callable date. So it's generally 10. If it's a 20-year bond, it's typically 10 years after that point. One of the provisions of the tax, the tax and jobs, the jobs tax, the Trump tax cuts in 2016 is that they no longer allowed advance refunding. And I don't think it was anything particular about local government, but when the federal government's doing tax legislation, they kind of scorecard it and they need to come up with pluses and minuses. And unfortunately, advance refunding was one of the things that fell by the wayside. So we weren't able to do an advance refunding. So now these are the first time that they're potentially available for us to do these.
What's considered advance? And
An
what's
advance refund would mean before that 10-year callable date.
so before the 10-year call?
So we were kind of caught by changes in federal legislation on what we were able to do there.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Penman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Sandless, in relation to Resolution 4223, I looked through it. I didn't see anything about the Harford County Sheriff's Office Central Precinct and Training Facility that's been approved. I just want to make sure I'm not missing, it's not involved in these bonds at all.
No, it's not part of that bond sale. Those projects, that project is still a budgeted project that still has its appropriation on it, but it's not part of this bond sale.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett?
Has anything changed out there in the news or anything that would change your expected potential savings with the refunding of the bonds? Like, as we get closer, are you learning more information that would make you lean one way and another in our potential to save any money?
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I think during the summer the rates were getting closer to the 4% rate. So I know Carroll County just had their bond sale about a month ago, and they were able to sell for 3.6. So I'm hoping that, again, we're able to do that, stay under 4%. The days of us being able to sell at 1 or 2% are probably gone, just like getting a 2% mortgage are probably gone. But again, we still have a very, I think because we're a AAA rated county with a lot of strong financials, our debt is in high demand. I am hopeful that we'll be able to keep it under that 4%, but we'll see.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Anyone else? Seeing no other questions, gentlemen, as Mr. Giangiordano said, this will be addressed at a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
What did I say?
Didn't say my name right, that's for sure.
Oh, my gosh, forgive me.
God, you think you know somebody after a couple of years of saying your name right.
9, introduction of bills. We have none. Mr. Giangiordano, please read amendments to Bill 23-34.
Amendments to Bill 23-034, Distribution Hotel Occupancy Tax Revenue Amendments Number 1 through 4, introduced by Council Vice President Giangiordano, Council Members Riley, Bennett, and Council President Vincenti. Amendment Number 1, on page 1, strike beginning with, in quotation, all in line 17 down through, in quotation, grant in line 21. Amendment Number 2, on page 1 in line 12, strike, in quotation, 50% and substitute 25%. Amendment Number 3, on page 1 in line 16, strike, located, the remaining 50% and substitute located, and the remaining of the hotel occupancy tax collected, including any amount not expended in the council district where the hotel is located. Amendment number 4, on the title page, in the third line, strike in quotations 50% and substitute in quotation 25%. Amendments 5 through 6, introduced by Councilmember Penman, Councilmembers Jan Giordano, Boyle, Sados, Guthrie, Bennett, and President Vincenti. Amendment number 5, on page 1 in line 12, after activities, insert 25% of the balance of the hotel occupancy tax collected shall be used for Visit Harford Incorporated, the county's destination marketing organization, DMO, out of the remaining balance. Amendment number 6, on the title page, in the third line after amendment, insert in quotations to require 25% of the balance of the hotel tax collected be used for the county's destination marketing organization.
Thank you. 11, call for final reading of bills. We have none. 12, enrollment of bills. We have none. 13, unfinished business. We have none. 14, new business. Auditor update, Ms. Brooks. Good evening, ma'am.
All right. So the last time I presented to you all was back in June, so I'm going to let you know how things have been going in the Office of the County Auditor since then. There were, at that time, 4 projects from our fiscal year 2023 audit plan that were still in progress. The hotel occupancy tax audits, there were 4 hotels that we audited since my last update. There were 2 recommendations related to those audits. We looked at the Super 8 in Aberdeen, the Comfort Inn in Aberdeen, Home 2 Suites in Aberdeen, and the Hilton Garden Inn in Bel Air. The 2 issues we found, one hotel had overpaid their taxes. That amount that they overpaid was credited to a later payment that they needed to make. And one hotel owed about $4,800. They repaid that underpayment fairly quickly after we issued the audit report. Our recruitment and hiring practices audit is in progress. It was pushed back at management's request. We are expecting to report on that in February of 2024. We completed an audit of the water and sewer billing system controls. That was a new system that was put into place year before last. We finished that in November. There was one recommendation related to that audit. We found that management reviewed adjustments to bills as they were made, but there wasn't a function in the system to be able to generate a list of all of the adjustments that had been done. So we recommended that management work with the software developer to come up with a report so that management can essentially generate a list of the adjustments just to make sure that they've all been captured in their review process. And management told us that they would be working on fixing that, I think by July 1st, excuse me. We also finished our audit of purchase card controls. We sent that report out in September. This is something that we do all year throughout the year. We look at transactions for cardholders to see that they are reasonable and allowable and supported by the appropriate documentation. We look at cardholders' logs to see that they were done and reviewed by their supervisors timely and that they were complete. There were no issues in this year's purchase card audit. There was one informal recommendation that we made related to developing a policy related to flowers and memorials when people die, whether they be employees or family members of employees or community members, just that there be a standard policy for when those things are acceptable. Looking at the fiscal year 2024 audit plan, we completed an audit of petty cash. There were actually 7 funds that we audited. There were no issues related to any of them. They were 4 funds for the Department of Public Works. All of those funds are now closed so that Public Works has a new process for completing meal reimbursements for employees so they don't need petty cash anymore. We also looked at the county's emergency preparedness petty cash fund, Treasury's revenue collections fund, so the amount that they keep in Treasury for the cashier's window, and the jury commissioner's fund, which is the fund that they use to pay jurors every day. Like I said, there were no issues related to any of those funds. We, every year, go through and review the findings that we've had in prior audits to see whether or not management has addressed the recommendations. We found this year that there were 12 recommendations that are now closed and that there are 7 that remain open for follow-up. Those 7 are all things that we think management is working on. We don't feel a need to escalate any of them at this point. The county charter requires that we perform an exit audit when officials leave county service, and officials we normally define as department heads and deputy directors. Since the last update, we did exit audits for the community services director, procurement director, and the deputy director for housing and economic development. There were no issues of indebtedness found in any of those projects. Also completed an audit of accounts payable. There were no issues related to that audit, which is good news. Essentially, we just wanted to make sure that when the county is paying out money to folks, we know who it's going to, that the vendor has been authorized, that the payment is for a valid debt that the county owes. We are currently working on an audit of property management controls. We expect to be able to report on that project in January. The county's financial statements have been audited, and that audit was completed in October. You all had a presentation from Clifton Larson Allen a few weeks ago. Also related to the county's financial statements is the county's audit, or the single audit, which is the audit of federal funds. That project is in progress, but should be done this month. And then also the audits of the county's affiliated agencies, so the fire companies, the Humane Society, are those agencies that are not part of the county's financial statements but receive county dollars. We expect to be able to report to you on those later this month. We did an audit of Parks and Recreation's inventory controls. That project is done, but we're waiting on management responses, so you all should see a report from me in the next week or two related to that. We are pushing back the reporting deadlines for our projects related to cable franchise fees and facility access controls. We are also working on an audit of cash receipts for Harford Transit. That project is in planning. We expect to be able to report on that actually in February. We're also planning on looking at employee separation procedures. We're pushing back that reporting date to May. We want to make sure we get through the recruitment audit before we start working on employee separation, just so that we're not overloading management with audit requests. Otherwise, the only other thing in the fiscal year 2024 audit plan that has changed is purchase card controls, which is in progress. As I mentioned, we work on that throughout the year. So those are all the projects that we've been working on, in addition to things like fiscal notes and answering questions that you all may have. We also met with the Audit Advisory Board November 28th. Those are always good meetings where we're able to get feedback from citizens and from some of you all as council members on the work that we're doing throughout the year. So those are public meetings. The next one is February 27th at 4:30 in the County Council's conference room. So I know I went through a lot of things, but I can answer any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Crystal, for your update. Mr. Jandrodana.
Thank you, Crystal, for the update. Is there a report that you would have for the 7 unresolved audits with the administration? That, yeah?
Yep, I will forward you a copy of it.
Okay, great, thank you. Thanks for all your hard work, too.
Thank you.
Mr. Penman.
Ms. Brooks, I just, again, want to thank you for all your hard work, and I just understand the importance of your role, your unit's role, as far as transparency and accountability, and the need to have unfettered access, so we can have answers and accountability. So thank you for your work. Small but mighty team, always available. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mr. Bennett.
Yep, just to echo all that, anytime any of us have a question, you all are very quick and always have good information for us. I was just curious, budget season will be here before we know it, and last year there was just some conversation about requesting help with like tracking when a position moves from one department to another, being able to just keep record of that so we know like what the pluses and minuses mean. Has there been any work on that in the past year to help with that this year, or?
My office has looked a little bit at how many positions are in each department. We don't have a good way to keep track of who's moving from one department to another or when pins are moving from one department to another. Because that normally goes through HR and budget, and we don't get into budget details normally. We consider that executive privilege. So no, we're not tracking it. We can at a certain point in time figure out what is what.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. And then Mr. Guthrie.
Just to conclude one thing, thank you for your fiscal impact note on the hotel tax. I'm just disappointed not very many people read it. Thank you.
And then Ms. Brooks, when we talk about purchase card controls, and you talking about written policies for purchases in reference to a recognition of a council member or someone that passed. Ms. Dixon does have that policy in hand here for the council, correct?
Right, the council has a policy.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Brooks. Agenda number 17, comments and input from attending citizens. Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up?
We do, Mr. President. We have 3 this evening. Tammy Wainwright, followed by Glenn Gillis.
Mr. Gillis.
Thank you. Glenn Gillis, 1936 Park Beach Drive in Perryman. As we celebrate Harford 250, let's remember the Harford heritage starts in the Perryman area. As First Nations lived and traded on the shores of Susquehanna and Bush Rivers, early European explorers like Captain John Smith in the early 1600s traveled up the Bush River and recognized it as a rich natural resource. Subsequent land grants in the area resulted in the needed formation of a regional governmental seat at Old Baltimore on the Bush River in 1660s. Rich farmland, freshwater resources, and transportation allowed settlements and plantations to thrive and led to communities soon to be known as Perryman, and to have significant events like the Bush River Declaration in 1775, well before the founding of Bel Air in 1780s. While the Perryman area survived the introduction of Aberdeen Proving Ground in the early 1900s, a shift of power and influence was moving to historic Bel Air. With this shift, the beginnings of economic and social discrimination began to be felt in our area. Neighborhoods were dominated by their large landholders, and the economic benefits for the rich resources of the peninsula were finding their ways into the pockets of businessmen and politicians outside of our area. Established neighborhoods were neglected and the land abused for the economic gain of the few at the expense of the locals. This pattern of economic, environmental, and social injustice has continued, resulting in the suppression and industrialization of southern Harford County. As documented in the 3P authored study, Turning the Tide, Perryman's Path from Sacrifice Zone to Sustainable Community for a Healthier Chesapeake Bay, the following was quoted. Heavy pollution-bearing development is funneled into the county's southern regions where minority and economically disadvantaged communities reside, while in contrast, the northern affluent white population sees preservation of farmlands and lesser environmental burdens. This glaring uneven distribution is not a mere coincidence. It is a manifestation of the systematic racial bias and economic disparity fueled by the impact of decades of county decisions, unquote. We call the council and the county executive to acknowledge these wrongdoings and act decisively for Perryman and all of Harford County during the Harford 250 celebration. And if you're interested, this document is going to be available soon to everyone. I think most of the council people have it as you stand now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
John Malamo.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Sir, good evening to you, you and your colleagues. Mr. Guthrie, I appreciate your discussion of your medical adventures and your encouragements to the residents to look after their health. But, sir, I am forever grateful that you did not bring pictures of your experiences. Thank you.
Me either.
John P. Malamo, 2402 Eagleview Drive, Bel Air, Maryland. That leaves this current situation. Harford County Planning and Zoning is not enforcing the zoning code or conditions of the special exception in zoning case 5814. The county administration has issued permits for 3 additional buildings that were never approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. They have recognized commercial and industrial uses that were never approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals as permitted accessory uses. The county executive has not answered queries about that situation. The county council has been mostly silent. The airport owners have expanded their operation. Runway 0119 was lengthened to 3,350 feet, which was never approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. And they are now seeking to expand even more, lengthening the runway, adding buildings and parking spaces. I wonder, will the county administration continue to ignore the situation to allow the incremental airport expansion, one piece at a time, without Board of Appeals approval? Will the county council remain silent on the matter? This is all about government and governance. This is how it's been working. These are the people who will be making land use and zoning decisions. These are the practices, policies, processes, and procedures they will follow. While the previously favored special interest groups may have been displaced, there's no doubt in my mind they will be replaced. Hopefully there will be a change. I know that Harford County will develop. What it looks like when it is developed is a question best answered within the context of zoning laws and land use practices, policies, processes, and procedures. I believe that if any of these elements are not balanced, the entire county is adversely affected. I would remind you that the Dred Scott decision was about property rights and prevailing law. It was a correct decision under prevailing law and did observe property rights. Was it balanced? Councilwoman Boyle-Saddles, Councilman Penman, I appreciate your stance on the law and observation of property rights. As you inform your decisions and shape your actions, please evaluate the zoning code and land use practices, policies, processes, and procedures. Consider whether the particular activities you are presented with adversely affect the adjacent properties and determine whether they balance the surrounding community. I would encourage your colleagues to do the same. Bad laws, practices, policies, process, procedures rarely benefit any community. Good night.
Good night, sir.
There are no more speakers, Mr. President.
With no other speakers, we'll move into Agenda 16, business from council members. Mr. Bennett.
Hello. Thank you all for being here and watching at home. I just want to make sure everybody knows the Abingdon, Bell Camp, Perryman, Riverside Cab meeting is coming up on Thursday, 12/14 from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. That will be at the Abingdon Fire Company. I just encourage you to come out. The last one I thought was a great meeting, very informative, and it's something I look forward to participating in Thursday night. In addition to that, this past week, many of us attended Mako. I know personally I was running around nonstop talking to people from Garrett County down to Worcester and everywhere in between, just trying to find out about what people were working on, what they were up to. Learned a lot about how people work collaboratively between counties to improve parks and rec opportunities. I learned a lot about soil conservation, how some of our smaller, more rural counties are preparing for solar, and just many other things, and just lots of conversations, lots of professional development. It was definitely worth writing 3 sub-days. Came back to my classroom and the walls were still there. So, but it was a really great week for me. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Ms. Saddles.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have a few seasonal highlights to This Friday, 7 o'clock, the John Carroll School is presenting the Nutcracker. Definitely good for all ages. Also, this Saturday, visit the Aberdeen Library for the 3D printer demo day. It's 11 to 12. You can stop in and see the 3D printer in action and take home 3D printed holiday themed cookie cutters while supplies last. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ms. Alves. Mr. Giangiordano?
Thank you, Council President. I just want to give a congratulations to the Lean Kitchen. It opened up where Chili's is on Baltimore Pike. Congratulations to JC and Katie Davis. So you go in there and they have prepackaged meals that are healthy, and hopefully they will do well. It's a new concept in Harford County, so congratulations to them, and that's all I have. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Giangiordano. Mr. Penman?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be a little bit long-winded. Myself and council colleagues had an informative MACO conference last week, and we engaged in some interesting class and conversations. Just a couple takeaways from that. As far as economics, there will need to be economic growth to overcome inflation. We don't have a job problem because the unemployment is very low in our state, but available housing to meet the workforce demand seems to be a big problem across our area. And if we don't put smart economic growth as a priority, the state and the county will try to raise taxes, which I'm not in support of, and which we've seen already locally through fees. On that topic, it was great to participate yesterday in a roundtable discussion with the Maryland Secretary of Commerce. During discussion, it was great to hear what Bel Air is doing for small business, and Aberdeen gave their updates. I was able to discuss some of the difficulties Harford County has had implementing careful, balanced economic growth, along with some difficult decisions we have made facing zoning and development and the impact of our local infrastructure. So I was able to kind of seek what the state's strategy is on those topics. I did go away from that meeting concerned about the lack of vision and understanding of Harford County or by Harford County, and believe we have a lot of room for improvement, such as when it was compared that Harford County is a version of Silicon Valley. Look, I would love to have a large network of high technology and innovative ideas like the real Silicon Valley to energize our local economy, but I just don't feel that Harford County is there yet. As far as the MACO blueprint discussion took place, like us, many jurisdictions across our state are struggling with the costs associated with the implementation of the blueprint demands. I believe we are in much better position than other jurisdictions because of the Glassman administration's budget practices while investing in people and keeping taxes low. We had a discussion about the legalization of marijuana, which I think we're going to have more conversations here in Harford County. More and more dispensaries will be approved across the state, and for areas deemed disappropriate from marijuana arrest. Some of the big questions we will be faced with is zoning considerations and the approval of businesses such as marijuana lounges. So I look forward to those discussions. I also want to acknowledge that the Harford County Sheriff's Office Christmas Drive is currently underway. It's incredible to think that this Christmas Drive has been in effect for 41 years. It was an honor to attend the Christmas Drive event at Friendship Liquors. The council president was there with me, which had a fantastic turnout and community response last Saturday. And if anybody's interested, the Sheriff's Office is having a Christmas present wrapping day this Saturday. If you're interested, you can reach out to the Harford County Sheriff's Office Community Policing Unit. Lastly, I would like to convey my disappointment in the lack of cooperation with the Harford County Executive's administration. Obviously, there are differences of opinions on certain matters and transparency, and I hope soon there will be accountability on those matters. But regardless of the issues, there should be an open dialogue on county-related issues. Over the last few months, I have not been included in vital budget and legislative meetings initiated by the county executive's administration, nor have I received adequate response or feedback when I've asked when I brought forward concerning legislative initiatives that I hope to get feedback on. I truly think this is an embarrassment for Harford County, which suffers if we can't put aside personal differences and engage in meaningful conversations for the best interests of the community. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Mr. Guthrie?
A couple of things. I'm working with Harford Cable Network to find out if there's a way possible to get our meetings here on live television. There are 4 channels on at least on my television that deals with government, and the 3 of them belong to Baltimore County and 1 of them belongs to Harford County. So I'm trying to find out if we can't get onto that channel when this meeting takes place, so it's live. We're trying to get a cost on that to find out what that would cost. I know there's a big cost coming in for Harford Cable Network that's going to be in the budget come next year. So we're going to have to take a look at that and see if we can fix getting this meeting on live TV. I was very busy the last couple of weeks. I've had meetings with Senator Ben Cardin and also Senator Chris Van Hollen, and talked to my favorite Congressman, Dutch Rubersberger, which unfortunately we no longer have on the Route 40 corridor. And that's all about the multi-billion-dollar bridge program that's going to take place from literally Baltimore all the way up into New York. They're talking about replacing all the railroad bridges all the way up, and it's going to cost several $billions. We're more concerned with 2 of them in my district, the Bush River Bridge and the Gunpowder River Bridge. Just to show you how some of these costs are, they're talking about, and this is not the whole line bridge, it's supposed to be the middle part of the bridge, but that hasn't been decided yet. But they're talking about the Gunpowder River Bridge will cost $30 million to replace that. And there's thoughts that think that what they're going to do is probably build a bridge alongside of a bridge, because they can't shut down the train, for all that period of time from Baltimore to New York. But it's going to be a huge program. And one of the big things that I brought the 2 senators in and a congressman in on is because I want to see them raise the bridge. They're going to raise the Bush River Bridge, but I'm not finding the same report coming in that they're going to raise the Gunpowder River Bridge. They really need to raise it because it's low. It affects the Oasis Marina there. They really need that bridge to be a little, even if it's only 4 or 5 feet, makes all the difference in the world. So we're hoping that they can get that changed. Saturday, my wife and I have been invited to Aberdeen Proving Grounds to the Major General Robert in Morton home for dinner. So we're really looking forward to that. It's the second time that we have had that opportunity. And I just want to say that I'm disappointed in some of the amendments that are coming forward on the hotel tax. I support 5 and 6. I don't support 1 to 4. Those amendments 1 to 4 literally kill the bill. It makes it literally worthless. And I hope that the 4 council people who have signed on to that bill would take a look, spend this week until next week to look at it, and see what a difference those amendments are doing to that bill. I'm just so disappointed that we constantly squash the southern part of the county any way we can. There's 43,000 people that live there. They deserve more attention than what this bill was to try to help out the area. I mean, just think about it. You can take away it's 50% of the taxes raised in Edgewood, and the taxes raised in Edgewood in a given year is about $685,000. Half of it we wanted to be spent in the area because we're going to need it. With the new sports fields coming in, they're talking about 12,000 people in any given weekend. We're going to need upgrading in the area, and to cut this down to 25%, just to put it in reality, and I don't support this at all. If they're going to cut our district from 50 to 25%, why don't they do that to Aberdeen? Why don't they do it to Havre de Grace? They're going to still get 50%. Why aren't we getting 50%? Why is it fair? And I don't support that at all. I think Aberdeen and Havre de Grace should get their 50%, no question about it. Why can't we? And by the way, they'll get it, and they'll go right into the mayor and the city council, and they have every right, they'll get that money. We won't get that money. Okay, that 50%, we have to now go after. Even though it says there's 50% there, we are now still going to have to go into Harford County and go to the county executive and ask him and bring the projects to him, and he still has to approve them. So whether that number is 50%, 75%, or 100% is really irrelevant, because he has the last word. Like it, lump it, don't like it, don't lump it, forget about it. He has the last word on every dime spent from the hotel tax. So we have to go, even though, and fortunately for Aberdeen and Edgewood, if we had a municipality, we'd be the same as Aberdeen and Edgewood, Aberdeen and Havre de Grace. We'd get 50%, and it would go right into the pot, and then we could spend it in the area. Fortunately, they have that right. I don't have that right. So I would appreciate if the four members of the council, because we're looking at something that these may pass by one vote, that we're going to squash those 43,000 people in there by one vote. So I'd appreciate if the council members who introduced those amendments 1 to 4 would really take a look at them seriously, see what it does to the rest of the county, because, again, I made that remark about the auditor's fiscal input note. It's going to have no effect whatsoever on any part of the county if that stays at 50%. There'll be no financial effect at all, because the hotel tax has increased literally the amount of money that 50% would amount to. So I would appreciate if the council members take a look at that and see if there isn't some kind of other adjustment that we can make to make the 43,000 people in my district a little happier. Because we just got these today, by the way. I just got these today. When I came into the council today, it's the first time I saw them. So I've already called some people, and there are some really unhappy people about those amendments. So I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. 15, business from the president. Want to advertise our APFO meeting, which is scheduled for December 20th, 6 p.m. in these council chambers. I had to postpone a couple of meetings this morning, one being with Dr. Poynton. I was supposed to meet with him first thing in reference to some conversations moving forward. But again, unfortunately, I had to postpone those. I want to give a huge shout out and thank all of our EMS partners in the county, our volunteer, plus our county employees, our county EMS partners, as well as our deputies. You never know what the day is going to bring. And unfortunately for us, there were some twists and turns last night prior to going to a Christmas dinner at a SIAB event. Jeannie had a quick fall, knocked herself out in the dining room. We had to call for medic unit, and they responded immediately, transported her to Hopkins Bayview, where she had several stitches in her forehead, but she is home, big lump, in good spirits, a little bit of a headache still tonight. But again, I want to give a huge shout out to not only all of our EMS partners here in the county, but I want to give a huge shout out to the team that worked on her last night at Hopkins Bayview, especially Magdalena. She was outstanding. Mr. Penman talked about the toy drive at Friendship Liquors. It's extremely well attended, and I believe they have something this Saturday too, don't they?
Wrapping
Yes.
day.
Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you.